Hello my fuzzy little darlings of gaming gorgeousness. Welcome to Annoyed Gamer. I'm Marcus Beer. Nothing to rant about this week. It's the Q&A session. It's, I put the call out on Twitter this week and a lot of you responded. I'm going to plow through a lot of your questions because that's what I'm doing. And then next week, I'll be letting you know about Xbox One and PS4 and my thoughts thereof. But anyway, on with the questions, see? First question from Sean Phillips, who basically says Daniel Bloodworth of GameTrailers fame, who reviewed Assassin's Creed Black Flag, said that Edward Kenway is the most likable lead in the series in his review. Edward Kenway is Welsh. Coincidence? No, not a coincidence, just a fact. All Welsh people are likable and charming, and all deserve to be the leads in their own video games. Next up, question from, and again, I apologize in advance for anybody's name that I mispronounce, but some of your names are rather difficult for me, and I am a cunning linguist at that. Axel Ergulen, I hope I got that right. Which old school franchise would you like to see brought back the most? Well, I think this one is, this is a no-brainer for me. I'm actually going to pull a couple out of the air. First of all, old school Ghost Recon. Talked about that on Invisible Walls last week when we were talking about Call of Duty Black Ops and Ghost and stuff like that. Old school Rainbow Six. And these are the old school PC original versions, not the versions that have become Call of Duty-esque or Gears of War-esque in the last 8 to 10 years. I think there's a mine of really good people out there who want to make these games, and I think the market is ready for these games, as it's time for a lot of the Twitch gamers to have something different to turn their hands to. So those are the two main ones, and of course the old staple, Dungeon Keeper. I still have 1 and 2, upload them onto every PC laptop that I've got, and it's getting a bit unplayable now, Dungeon Keeper 1, especially when you have to go to, 800 by 600 is the maximum resolution. Dungeon Keeper 3, I would love. Peter Molyneux, please claw the license away from EA and make me Dungeon Keeper 3. Just me, nobody else can have it. So, the guy whose question I just answered, he asked another one actually, which is actually a really good one. Do you think Microsoft should sell Rare back to Nintendo? No. I think Rare should go off on its own. I think Rare should go off and bring the Stampers back and start making their own stuff. I mean, it's a shame really that Rare was not sort of like given the same deal as Bungie did so that they could produce these games exclusively and then go off and do their own stuff. I would love to see Rare come back. But as I said again last week, I don't think the Rare we have today is the Rare of 10 years ago. So maybe, the people in that company, maybe they'll all form their own company, and nobody could get upset, and no console fanboys could be screaming that they don't have a Rare game on their system, or they do have a Rare game on their system. How about that? Next question is from that one guy, and we all know that one guy, right? He wants to know that with the PS4 and the Xbox One coming out, how will Nintendo manage? I mean, will they find a place in the market, or will they sink further? There is a place for Nintendo. There is a big place for Nintendo in video games. I said this a couple of weeks ago. We have to have a 3-console system. We have to have a 3-party system. And look, I'm not including iPads and touch-tone phone games and all that shit. We need 3 consoles. We need the variety that 3 consoles bring. I think the problem with Nintendo and the Wii U is their uniqueness in the architecture. We have to create this unique architecture that's difficult to program for and has to use the second screen and blah, blah, blah. And they're missing out on a huge amount of benefits right now because of that difficulty to program. We would see more games like Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs and every other game that has the second screen app now, of which there are numerous amounts, more coming, more and more and more. They could all live on the Wii U very nicely and could offer Wii U gamers an amazing multi-platform experience. Unfortunately, the way it's going right now, if you want to play Wii games and you want to play the other games, you have to have 2 systems. So I'm getting an Xbox and a Wii U. I'm getting a PS4 and a Wii U. That's great, but not everybody can do that. And so people are looking at what is the biggest amount of games I can look at and purchase, and that's why they're looking at Xbox and PS4. What Nintendo needs to do, bring more games, make it easier to program for your system, and support third parties, because if third parties bring it, you become a more viable system. Who's going to spend $250 on a system where you only have 8 to 10 games a year, as opposed to spending $400 or $500 on a system where you have 20, 30, 40, 50 or so games a year? Nintendo, we do need you. Come back, be strong, give us some new IPs, and support the third parties more, please. Okay, next question from a good friend of mine, Dan Heavier, who sent in his own snarky little question. Is it difficult being that handsome, or have you adjusted to living as one who is handsomer than all? All right, well, I'm gonna have to take some issues with that. First of all, I'm not Michael Pachter handsome. and you know, we're not that far apart age-wise. I don't have his suave looks. I'm not Daniel Kaiser good looking either, because you know, he has the long flowing mane and he's healthy. You know, I'm not even Carl Bosman handsome, you know, because he's got this kind of nerdy, geeky, you know, attractive Mr. Bean thing going for him. But I know I am better looking than some people. I'm just not going to say who. But you know, 'tis what it is. It made me develop my personality. For better or for worse. Next question from Peter Snow. Do you think we'll ever see groundbreaking FPSs like Deus Ex / System Shock 2, etc. anytime soon, or are we just going to get Call of Duty clones? Well, with the next generation, I'm really hoping that we do see some innovation in the first-person shooter market, and you know, whether it be the Deus Ex style, or even, like I said, going to the squad based, which is also kind of a retro thing, but can be evolved. I mean, we are dealing with way more processing power. That processing power needs to be put into new gameplay mechanics. It needs to be put into creating huge worlds that you can enter into every single door, and you don't need to be led by the nose, and you don't need a dog as a gimmick, or you need fish swimming away from you, and that's taking up all the processing power. Screw the fish. Fish belong one place only, well, two places, in a tank or on my plate at a sushi restaurant, in my opinion. I don't really need to see them all swirling away in a Michael Bay-esque video game. What I would like to see is, okay, so here you are, there's your objective, here's this huge space, you have X amount of people with you, this is your team, plan your way to get to X, Y, and Z. You can go any way you want, you can take these different routes, you can use these different weapons. I mean, there are a lot of games that do it. They do let you go the stealth route, or they go, you know, the Rambo route, or whatever. And we need to see more of that. Next question is from Rehan Tariq. What could Microsoft and Sony do to stop these PR screw-ups? Of which there have been numerous. Some have happened this week, just with the, you know, the PS4 launch, where embargoes have been, you know, said, all right, the embargo's lifted for this. Oh, but it's not actually for this, it's for this. The event happened in New York this week. From all accounts, it wasn't a stage-managed event, which was fantastic, and you know, allayed a lot of my fears that I communicated 2 weeks ago. People turned up, they got their PS4s, they got their games, and then they could go off to their hotel room, plug it in, and play it. Where it's not great is that flying people out, one person per outlet, giving them a stack of 15 or 20 games and a PS4 and locking them in a hotel room for 2 days, halfway across the country, or in the case of GameTrailers, all the way across the country, and then having them schlep everything back with them, seems a bit redundant, inefficient, and a bit extravagant, to be honest with you, because look, everybody loves going off to New York and sitting in a hotel and drinking and having, you know, attending all the fancy stuff. But when you have all these games to review and you have a 3-day embargo, gets a little bit silly. It would have been much better to send the machines out to the GTs, GameSpots, Game Informers, etc. with all the games, and just say, have at it, so multiple people can review them, do them in shifts, write up all the reviews, hit the deadlines, and the reviews will probably be a little more in depth. Oh, well, if we get them out and they play it, and then they carry everything back on the plane, people will see the PlayStation 4 box, and it'll be aspirational, and people will want to see, oh, why, you know, I saw that on the plane, that's cool, I'm gonna go get it. No, how about let everybody do their really good coverage and sell the system for you on its own merits and strengths, and not drag people halfway across the country or all the way across the country, and then just exhaust them and drive them friggin' nuts. Because you know how difficult it is to get crap on a plane nowadays, let alone a bunch of PS4 games and a unit. Yeah, that's not smart thinking. And it just comes down to common sense. And I think that's a lot of the problem. There's a lot of people out there who look, with regards to PR, when they're in PR, they look at, oh, wouldn't this be great if we can execute this, and this is fantastic, and blah, blah, blah. And they forget the logic behind it. They get so caught up in the grand idea and so married that we have to have this huge, superb event, and it's going to be wonderful and brilliant. And they forget the logistics. They forget the impact on the people who are coming, or they don't give a shit, which is also kind of reprehensible, because that just creates bad feeling. It exhausts people, pushes them to the end of their tether, and then you're sending them off to review your stuff. Not exactly smart. It's all about making things as easy as possible. So, common sense. Microsoft needed to show common sense 6 months ago when they announced the Xbox One. They didn't show it. They've started to get more common sense. Sony showed a lot of common sense when they first announced it. And Sony have been very smart at reacting to stuff as well. The Digital Media Center and the MP3 support is now going to be patched in. Sony's other common sense has deserted them in a couple of ways over the last couple of weeks in not responding to stuff and And like I said, dragging people all the way across the country. But I mean, hopefully this is a learning lesson that we don't have to deal with in 8 years' time. Hell, I won't be around in 8 years' time. If I'm still doing Annoyed Gamer in 8 years' time, shoot me on camera. Okay? Carl's nodding his head. Next question is from Blaine Haniff. What franchise would you like to see revived and done well on the PS4? I'd like to see Resident Evil come back. I'd like old school Resident Evil. Reboot the franchise from the beginning. Take advantage of all the improvements in the graphics and all the various other things, but not make it look like a Gears of War clone. Next one's from HB HUD, and he wants to know, is there any way for Sega to return to gain any sort of prominence, or are they now a ghost of gaming? There is always room for a great comeback. Sega does have some good IPs. Sega's made some interesting acquisitions as well, out of the THQ Fire Sale. They've got more and more prominence on the PC. They're doing stuff like, was it the Rome Total War series, I think it is. Sega can do some good stuff. Sega have a great back catalogue, and I'm not talking about just putting shit on iPhone. Shining Force, bring that back to PS4, to Xbox One and PC. Just saying, Shining Force. Comic Zone. Comic Zone was another great game on the Genesis, and is now available on the App Store. But why would I want to play it on an iPhone or an iPad when I could put it on my next-gen console, have these amazingly smooth comic book style panes and graphics, and expand the story and just make it incredible? So there you go, Sega, some free advice. Shining Force and Comic Zone. Upgrade them, update them, drag them kicking and screaming into the new Millennium Plus 13 and put them on the next gen consoles. They were really cool games. Will stop you being a ghost. I'm a Ghostbuster. All right, last question. There's a guy who works at Polygon, Dave Tatch. He's a good guy. He wants to know, what do I think of Dave Tatch on a scale of 9 to 10? Well, to use the Polygon way of reviewing things, Dave, I'm actually going to give you a 7, but that may go up if your online interactivity improves and the day one patches come through. Okay, you may get to an 8 or a 9. I don't know. Anyway, that's it. Questions done. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a happy Saturday, Sunday. I hope you're enjoying playing with your PS4 right now, or whatever you are playing with. Next week, I will be dishing my views on Xbox One and PS4. You see, I've stopped calling it Xbone. Xbone thing is kind of over. So, they're here. Now's the time. The talking is over. The hype train is over. Now we can get our hands on this shit, start playing it, hopefully enjoying it. Because for them to be successful, they just have to do one thing. Bring the games. Because that's what we're all about, really, innit? Innit? Eh? Games, lovely jubbly. See you next week.